Constraints of project management. In the field of project management, there are 3 constraints usually applied to a project, including scope, schedule, and cost. These 3 constraints are interrelated. Scope includes the breadth and depth of the document and the quality of the document. An increased scope, a more detailed document for example, will take longer and require increased resources. A shorter schedule can usually be achieved by increasing the resources or by decreasing the scope. Costs can be minimized by a decreased scope. A quick hint: if your project is falling behind schedule, increasing resources or decreasing the scope of the document may help get it back on track. Of course, ISO consensus is also a critical objective of project management, one that remains critical during the entire life of the project. Scope. Committees must develop standards that are within the scope of their committees, and Form 4 requires proposers to articulate a clear scope on which committees base their votes, yes, no, or abstain, about whether or not to proceed with the work item. In principle, these provide checks and balances against the risk of scope creep. Scope creep is when a scope expands beyond its original aims, bearing in mind the scope can include both breadth and depth, i.e., how broadly the topic is covered, as well as the level of detail. Either of these can be adjusted or minimized in order to decrease the scope and speed development. Some content can be deferred to a later revision. Schedule. The directives are clear about the importance of keeping to the established schedule, in ISO referred to as target dates. Clause 2.1.6.1 of the ISO supplement to the ISO IEC directives state, the target dates shall be kept under continuous review by committee secretariats, which shall ensure that they are reviewed and either confirmed or revised at each committee meeting. Per Clause 2.1.6, committees must choose to develop the standard in one of 3 tracks, 24, 36, and 48 months, which each come with fixed target dates for DIS, inquiry stage, and publication. The focus on schedule has been sharpened in recent years. Committees remain free to choose the track of their work items, but will then be granted only one extension of up to 9 months for the total project duration if they decide they need more than 48 months to develop a project. It should be said that while changing the tracks remains an option for committees that need more time for the development of a deliverable, ideally this can be avoided by applying project management principles. Cost. The issue of cost or resources is one that, until recently, was not directly confronted at ISO. This is likely due to the fact that most of the cost arising from standards development is the time invested by those involved in the process, which is invisible. This includes the time and effort of secretariats, of course, but also the chairs, conveners, and particularly the experts. These costs should not be underestimated or overlooked. In order to generate credible standards, we need the best experts in the field. But expanding timelines will make standards development less attractive to the experts we want to attract. It will also make it harder for these experts to justify their involvement to their companies or organizations. And let's not forget the fact that these costs also include travel costs and the costs associated with meetings. The project leader should focus on resources by assigning an adequate number of experts and making efficient use of their time. As just explained, adjusting scope or schedule can affect cost. So given the same level of resources, a reduced scope can speed up the schedule, as can an increased level of resources within the same scope. Resources can be allocated or reassigned in order to increase their effectiveness. For example, a particular person could be asked to work on a different portion of the project, or a subgroup with too many people could be split up or assigned additional work.